The Indiana Hoosiers continue to blow out every team they play, including UCLA this weekend, which was just total dominance.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of our everydayers, and we got a lot to get to on today's show. Indiana basketball beats Baylor in an exhibition game, which means more than you think. We'll talk about that in the third segment. Plus, can the Big Ten get more than 3 teams into the college football playoff? I'm starting to think that may not happen, but we can't move on without talking about Indiana's dominance once again, beating UCLA over the weekend at home in total dominating fashion. And for my everydayers, apologies for not a ton of coverage over the weekend and this show on Monday, getting to you a little bit later. Took a weekend off, was able to go celebrate some time with some friends, and so much needed time off. Hope you can understand, but man, we got a jam-packed show talking all of the things that we missed. And it starts with Indiana's win over UCLA, 56-6 final score for the Hoosiers over the Bruins. And look, we knew Indiana was the better team. We knew that this was probably going to be a game that the Hoosiers ran away with, but by no means did I think a 50-point win was going to happen again for the Hoosiers in Big Ten play. That's just not supposed to happen. This is not normal, okay? I know that Indiana, we're not used to just winning in general on the football field, right? But Ohio State doesn't even do this. Alabama didn't do this. Well, they kind of did back in the day with Nick Saban. Like, this is not normal to just walk in and beat a conference team by 50 points pretty much whenever you want to. But Indiana's doing that. And it's because of the things that we've talked about, the things that I tried to tell other people when they ask me what makes Curt Cignetti so special. Why did they pay Curt Cignetti $11.6 million a year? It's because of games like this where they don't overlook it. They don't underprepare. If anything, they overprepare, and they treat every game like it's your Super Bowl. And when you do that, this happens. These results play out when you are the much better team, the much more talented team, and the much more better coach team. You go out and do what you're supposed to do, and you win 56-6. Now, I think Indiana could have done this even if they didn't prepare the way they did, just because of the talent differential. But my goodness, did they get after Nico? Did they get after UCLA and just put their foot on their throat? And you kind of felt that on the first interception by Nico Iamaleava, which I had some people saying that may be the worst throw they've ever seen. And it was not good, but there's big old Aiden Fisher. And I'm so proud of him, man. I'm so happy for Aiden Fisher to get that for himself. He deserves that. He deserves that spotlight to get that interception, to get that return, and to set up Indiana in a really, really good spot for the 25-yard pick six. And that was pretty much all you needed to know. You could have turned the TV off right there, and you would have known how this game ended up. Indiana outscores them 14-0 in the first quarter. You're up a bunch of points. You're up, 35-3, I think, at the end of the half. And then by the end of it, you put in Alberto Mendoza. You got in all the backups and the reserves, and you just did what you needed to do. And what's so crazy here is Fernando Mendoza threw an interception, right? Indiana or UCLA throws one, Indiana turns around and throws one. It's like, oh, darn, Fernando threw one. But don't worry, he bounces back with 3 touchdown passes, but only goes 15 of 22. Because Indiana didn't have to throw the football that much, because you were able to split carries between Roman Hemby, Kalon Black, and even Fernando Mendoza took off and ran a little bit, and Kobe Martin got some carries down the stretch as well. It's because Indiana ran the ball so well, you didn't have to put Fernando in harm's way. And I love that. You're going to have to run the football down the stretch in the Big Ten, but you're also going to have to do it in the college football playoff. Man, you can't expect Mendoza to throw the football 30 or 35 times and win big games. That's just not how Indiana is built. This team still needs to run the ball. And I loved seeing that from both Hemby and Black. 27 combined carries, way over 100 yards, flirting with over 150 yards and a couple of scores for those guys. That's what the Hoosiers need on the offensive side of the football. And then defensively, what more can you say? 3 sacks combined, couple of picks, return 1 for a touchdown. Nico goes 13 of 27 for just 113 yards and 2 interceptions. They also couldn't run the ball. They thought they were going to, but they can't. They ran it 25 times. I know Nico's rushing yards and stats are in there as too, but 25 carries for 88 yards. They were in shambles. They didn't know what to do. Indiana was flying around all over the place at all 3 levels, man. This team is so dang good at everything that they do. They're fundamentally sound. They're more talented than you, and they're just flat out better than you. And this is total dominance right now by this Indiana squad. And when we start looking at the rest of the schedule, right, we've talked about this. This weekend could be tricky when you go on the road at Maryland, and we'll talk about that as the week goes on. That is a team on a 3-game losing streak after playing some teams that are better than them and then losing to that UCLA team. So probably shouldn't stress as much as we will, but it could get tricky. You play on the road at Maryland. You go to Penn State, which I still don't know how to judge that. I still have no idea what I'm supposed to think about Penn State. I'll know more after they play Ohio State this weekend. Then you play Wisconsin, who's terrible. They celebrate scoring a touchdown, not winning football games. And then you go on the road to Purdue. So you're still going to be favored in all these games. And if you continue to prepare and execute this way, you'll be undefeated. You'll be a top 4 seed, and you'll be probably the number 2 team, which you are in the latest AP poll again. And you have, I think, the best odds to win the national championship. Tell me a team, show me a team that's doing what Indiana's doing right now. And I understand UCLA, they've got some things to fix. And this was probably a humbling experience for them right after firing their staff and coming back and winning 3 games in a row and everything's great. And then you had to play Indiana. And don't worry, they still have Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, and USC. They may not win another game this year, but Indiana is proving to people they are legit in all facets of the game. And Curt Cignetti is earning every single penny of an $11.6 million a year contract. This is what great teams do. They don't get hung up on games like this. They don't get caught slipping against bad UCLA teams, and they handle their business. And Indiana did, winning 56-6 in all dominance for the Hoosiers moving down the stretch in the regular season. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll take a look at that AP poll that came out on Sunday and where the Big Ten stands and how the SEC might be kind of legit. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. College football is here, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's really nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up the Game Time app at any time, and your favorite college football tickets, I've seen them as low as $25 on Game Time, okay? So if you want to start going to some of these road games, or you want to come back home to Memorial Stadium and watch the Hoosiers play, use the Game Time app, because what you see is what you pay. The price at the end is going to be the price that you pay. It's the thing they take out of your bank account, okay? There's no hidden fees. There's no surprises. It's nothing like that. What you see is what you get, okay? So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel already, I highly recommend that you do. We surpassed 6,800 subscribers this weekend, folks. That means we're on our way to 7,000 subscribers. Okay, that's insane. That's absurd. I took over this show with 1,200. Okay, that's unreal to think about. So thank you so much for doing that, for commenting on our videos, for liking our videos on YouTube, and also all of our audio listeners too. Follow us over there. Turn on those notifications because that audience is growing as well. And I don't want you to ever miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Okay. And so now that we turn our focus to the AP poll, which did come out on Sunday, okay, as it has been, and no surprise, Ohio State's still number 1, and Indiana is still number 2. And I'm not going to go as much into it this week about enjoying the moment, right, and appreciating the time and the, you know, the stardom and all that stuff, and just being like, man, what a great time to be alive for the Indiana Hoosiers, which is all true. But I'm not so much milking it this week as Indiana's the second-ranked team in the country, and I think Indiana is the best team in the country. That's been my argument for weeks, and I'm not going away from it. And some people would say, you know what? That's a homer take because you talk about Indiana. You cover Indiana. You watch them and talk about them every day. You're right. I do, which means I'm a professional. I'm an expert on the Indiana Hoosiers, and I'm telling you, as a guy that watches them, studies them, and covers them 7 days a week, this is the best team in college football. Ohio State is really, really good. They're really good. But I think Indiana's a step better. And some people may call that crazy, and that's fine. But I think the Indiana Hoosiers are the best team in the country. And I think Indiana has the best chance to win the national championship. We've talked already about how I think this team will be undefeated when the season is over. And what's unfortunate is these games down the stretch, if they look like they did on Saturday, right, against UCLA, I don't know how much that benefits you if you're Indiana, right? I don't know how much beating Maryland and a bad Penn State team and Wisconsin and Purdue, beating them all by a combined 250 points. I don't know how much that helps you. And there could be some concern when you get into a playoff of having to take a step up in competition. But when has that ever been a problem for Curt Cignetti in his time at Bloomington? Never. That's never been an issue. So I don't think there's any concern there. But you start looking around the AP poll, and this is the direction that I want to go with today's conversation. Is Ohio State's at 1, Indiana's at 2, and the top 10 is pretty crazy. A&M's at 3, Bama's at 4, Georgia 5, Oregon 6. All right, there's your other Big Ten school. Ole Miss is at 7, Georgia Tech is at 8. They won and somehow went down. Vanderbilt's at 9 after their win, and Miami is back to, or I guess they never left the top 10. They are the 10th ranked team in the country. But you start looking through, and it's slim pickings for the Big Ten after the Oregon Ducks at 6, okay? You've got to scroll all the way down to find the Michigan Wolverines as the 21st ranked team in the country. That's a problem for the Big Ten. USC's there at 23rd, but you're missing out on Washington, Iowa, Illinois, all these teams. You're missing them out of the AP poll. And so I'm concerned between the top heaviness, is that a word? Sure, we'll go with that. The top heaviness of the Big Ten with Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon versus the rest of the SEC. And this is a conversation we've been having for several weeks, but one that's only getting stronger for the SEC. All right, Texas A&M, they're legit. I didn't want to buy in, but they are. They're legit. They just got Brian Kelly fired in Baton Rouge, so that speaks volumes. Alabama, they're legit too. That loss to Florida State, man, humbled them, did something to them and Kalen DeBoer that lit an absolute fire, and they've won 7 games since. Georgia is Georgia. They're legit. Ole Miss, nice win for them. Bounce back win over Oklahoma. They're a legit team as well. I'm not buying stock in Georgia Tech. I don't care. Vanderbilt, how can you deny it? How can you look away from what Vanderbilt's doing? They just beat a top 15 Missouri team. How can you look away from the Commodores? Now, the rest of their schedule, I don't have that on the top of my head, but here, I got it right here. Vanderbilt's rest of their schedule: at Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, and at Tennessee. So even if Vanderbilt wins the 2 games they're supposed to and splits ranked road games at Texas and Tennessee, you're talking about a team that has an argument to make the college football playoff, on top of Tennessee, who's back there at 14th in the country at 6-2. You see where I'm going here? The Big Ten's got 3 teams. They got 3. Michigan's not a playoff team. USC's not a playoff team. Washington right now, even with a nice win, here come the Huskies, they're not a playoff team yet. And neither is Illinois or Iowa. So we've got 3. The SEC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legitimate arguments, and Tennessee could get in there with 6. That's a problem for us. Not to mention the Big 12's trying to make an argument around here too, right? With BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, right? This is going to get ugly. And I don't think the Big 10 gets more than 3 teams in, which is a wild thing to say, thinking back to our conversations at the start of the season. And I think the SEC is going to steal it from us. I think they're going to take our bids. And I think that's probably right. I think it's correct. The same conversation we had 3 weeks ago is still true. The Big Ten is top heavy. The 3 teams at the top are the best, right? I think that Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, whatever rotation or whatever order you want to put them in, those are the 3 those are the 3 best teams in the country. But A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, like those teams are good too. And the SEC is just a deeper conference. So I don't want Big Ten fans to get all riled up when the SEC gets 4, 5, 6 teams in the college football playoff, because I think they've earned it. But I still have confidence in our conference to bring home its 3rd national title. And for Indiana's sake, again, you don't have any ranked teams left on the schedule. You'll end up playing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which there's still a conversation to be had about that and whether teams will play, won't play, should play, shouldn't play. And then you'll have the college football playoff where you'll have a 1st round bye, and then you'll play a neutral site somewhere for the quarterfinals. And again, as much as I would love to have a home playoff game for Indiana here in Bloomington at Memorial Stadium, that would be incredibly awesome, right? That would just be the cherry on top for this season for Curt Cignetti, for this program to host a college football playoff game. I would much rather have the bye week and be already in the next round. I think I'm cool with that. I think I'll settle for a quarterfinal game, a guarantee in a neutral site in the college football playoff. I think I'll take it. So that's kind of where we stand right now with just a few weeks left in the regular season, right? As we barrel down our way to the end of October. You'll have November 1st on Saturday, and you're in the final month of the regular season of college football, but the Hoosiers are in great shape. And even if you slip up somewhere, let's just talk about that for a second. Even if the Hoosiers slip up somewhere, you're still fine. You're okay. You just can't slip up twice, and it can't be a nasty loss. You can't let Maryland beat you 40-7 this week, and it's like, that's not good, right? If you just get beat on a Hail Mary or something like that against Maryland or Penn State, it's like, all right, whatever, that's fine. But if you drop a game that's close, it's fine. If you get blown out, you're probably still fine because of your resume, but you can't think about slipping up twice. But I don't think that's going to happen, just kind of playing devil's advocate here. So Indiana's fine. The Big Ten is fine. The SEC is actually pretty darn good. So that's where we stand right now in college football with just about a month to go. All right, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we are flipping to the hardwood because how about them Indiana Hoosiers? How about Darian Devries on the hardwood for Indiana basketball? They take down Baylor in an exhibition game that means more than some people will give it credit for. We talk about that next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket, to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps it keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here and kind of putting up with us, right, as we, again, just took the weekend off, but we're back full coverage here for you every single day, talking football and now talking a little basketball between Indiana and Baylor in an exhibition game in Indianapolis. And, man, how about those Indiana Hoosiers? We talk about that right now in this final segment of Locked On Hoosiers. And I will admit, with the weekend that I had being out of town and traveling and things, I did not get to watch this game live, but I went back and watched it in its entirety. Was able to go back and find, they have those edits on YouTube, right, where you can go, and I don't like to do this, but it's just how life happened this weekend, where you can go back and watch every single play edited together. You just cut out all the fluff, basically. So I was able to do that and take a bunch of notes and talk about and study this game so I could talk about this Indiana squad. And my goodness, I mean, what a game. What a game that this was between Indiana and Baylor. And I know that it was an exhibition, right, which is a glorified scrimmage. It's a high level practice is what it's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to get your guys in there and work on some things and move some different pieces around, try some different sets, try some different defensive formations, and just kind of see what sticks, right? You're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stays. This didn't feel like that. This felt like a game. This felt like a legitimate conference game in February between Indiana and Baylor. And I don't know if anybody talked about this or if anybody brought this up. I know we didn't. How funny is it that Indiana was playing Baylor, who's coached by Scott Drew, whose name was floating around for the Indiana job? Remember all that drama? Remember how all that kind of sparked up a little bit back then? Yeah, I never put all that together until I was literally watching the highlights of this game and going back and studying it. And I was like, I don't think I ever mentioned that. So I don't know. I thought that was funny, but man, Indiana looks legit. Indiana looks good. Was it perfect? No, of course not. But I think we look better than I thought we would, just being completely honest. I think Indiana looked much, much better than I expected them to look against a very talented, well-coached team in the Baylor Bears. A bigger team, not a faster team, a bigger and stronger team for sure. And that's an issue that Indiana's going to have, right? We understand what that's going to look like. We understand that will be an issue for this Indiana team is going to be size, right? And Baylor used that to their advantage, but it didn't matter. Indiana still wins the game, even though you got out rebounded by 19. Okay, that's not cool. That's not going to fly in the Big Ten. That's not going to fly on a nightly basis in our conference. But you overcame that. You overcame that by running the floor. You overcame it by really good shooting. We'll talk about that in a second. And you overcame it by just not giving in and not folding, which is what Indiana has done in the past. And look, you found yourself down by almost double digits in the first half. You cut it to 5, and then you get hot in the second half. And man, what a relief. How refreshing, right? I've told you that. I've told you this team is going to look different. I've told you it's going to feel different. I told you it's going to be different because this team can shoot. Okay, this team can shoot the basketball. And no, it wasn't as good as the first exhibition, but you found a way to knock down some shots and you found a way to get it to the right guys. You found a way to get it to Lamar Wilkerson, who had an awesome day, and you saw why he is the best or one of the best guards in the country. You saw why he was a top 5 scorer in the country a year ago. 28 points, 6 of 15 from the floor, 3 of 9 from deep, and 13 for 13 at the free throw line. You cannot make that up. And he looks so pure shooting free throws too. Just no doubt. It's like Steph Curry. He just steps up there and knocks it down. There's not even a doubt or a thought of a doubt in Lamar Wilkerson's mind when he steps to the free throw line. It's incredible. So he had 28 points. Tucker DeVries had 18 points, right? 7 of 15. Had a couple of big threes, including the walk-in three or like a transition three. Unbelievable that he was able to do that. 2 of 8, though. Not great from deep. Connerway, 5 of 13, 1 of 6 from the three-point line. So not great shooting numbers there. He still finds a way to put in 15 points. And then you get 9 from Sam Alexis, 4 from Reed Bailey. That was underwhelming. 2 from Connor Enright, who got the start, by the way. Thought that was interesting because of all your injuries and things. And then that was it for points. Josiah Miles played 1 minute at the end, and then Trent Sisley played 16 minutes, but only recorded 2 rebounds. And there's some things I want to mention there as well. So overall, I thought Indiana played well. You shoot 44% from the floor, 25% from 3, 95% from the free throw line, 20 of 21. If this is a consistent thing for the Hoosiers, you will be in every single game. You'll be in every game. If you're knocking down 95% of your free throws as a team, then you've got something working. But here's the issue. Reed Bailey did not shoot a free throw. Sam Alexis only shot 1 free throw. Those are your big guys. Those are your ones that you're going to lean on in the paint, in the lane, who are going to get fouled. They've got to get to the line, and then they've got to make them too. But the fact that your guards and your threes, right, are making free throws is an incredible sign. Lamar Wilkerson is him. He's the guy that you're going to go to. Between him and Tucker DeVries, those are the ones you'll rely on the offensive end of the floor. And I love the ball movement. I love the movement without the basketball. How about Indiana breaking out the old school bounce pass, huh? I mean, how many of those? I think I counted 9 or 10 in rewatching this game. 9 or 10 just beautiful bounce passes, most of them on backdoor cuts and baseline drags. I mean, really, really good ball movement and movement without the basketball by this Indiana team. And the Hoosiers found a way to get it to them. And they didn't make it every time, but they found a way to get to the rim. And a lot of them got fouled or had offensive rebound opportunities. Like, that's where Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis and Trent Sisley are going to have to come in. But man, just really good movement of the basketball and pushing it down the floor. We told you that's going to be a thing, and they absolutely did. Defensively was fine. Okay, again, you got bullied on the boards. That was expected against this Baylor squad. But I think you held your own. Okay, they shot 40% from the floor, 33% from 3. They shot 24 free throws, which I don't love, but they only made 18 of them. You did force 16 turnovers, though, and Indiana only turned it over 9. You start winning the turnover battle, that can help you balance out some of those things that you're not as good at, rebounding, and you'll have a chance to win some games. You get 16 turnovers and you score 22 points off of it. It's a winning formula, folks. That's what Indiana's going to do. Was the defense great? No. There were some times where they gave up easy buckets. They got out man down low, and there's nothing you can do about that right now. But you held your own one-on-one, and you didn't fold, and you came back and won this basketball game. And it was down the stretch, and the Hoosiers won a close game basically at the buzzer, right? I mean, right down to it. It came down to the final few seconds, final few shots, and Indiana won. They didn't do that last year. They lost those games last year. And I know it's an exhibition. I don't care. That tells me this team has something. That tells me this team has some grit, has some fight, and has a chance this year. You can see the talent, and 4 or 5 guys didn't even play in this game. More than that, really, when you think about it. And yet you still beat a P4 team when things weren't going your way. It's a good sign for this Indiana team. Are they going to win all those types of games this year? Heck no. Are they going to win all their games in general? Heck no. But that's a good sign that Indiana is able to pull it out when it's close in their first real test other than the 2 Puerto Rico games, which they also pulled out, by the way. This team's got a little moxie to it, and I think it's because of their head coach. I think they get it from Darian Devries, and I'm excited to see what this team does. Just a reminder, the Hoosiers open up the season a week from Wednesday. They'll take on Alabama A&M on Wednesday, November 5th. Then they'll take on Marquette on Sunday, November 9th. And this team is going to be a lot of fun, but you still have a ton to work on if you're Darian DeVries and the Indiana Hoosiers. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're on audio, subscribe to us, follow us there, and hit those notifications as well. We are back tomorrow. Normal time, normal stuff. All right, we're back on a regular schedule. So thank you so much for being here and supporting the show any way that you do. All right, we're back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.